We begin this hour with a case that we've been following for quite some time here at Court TV, the law professor murder for hire case. Defendant Charlie Adelson, also a dentist, is accused of orchestrating and financing the murder of Florida State University law professor Dan Markel. Now here's the connection. Markel was Adelson's former brother-in-law. 3 people are already serving prison time for Dan Markel's murder. The latest defendant, Catherine Magbanawa, who I know you'll recognize, was sentenced to life behind bars for her role in arranging the hit. Now, earlier today, the court held a hearing to determine whether or not Adelson would be granted pre-trial release. And before we get to the judge's decision, we want to take a look back at this case. Here's Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae.
To this day, do you think he's guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that he should be prosecuted for his involvement in the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes, ma'am.
That's Catherine Magbanawa talking about her ex-boyfriend, Charles Adelson, during her murder trial for the death of Florida State law professor Dan Markel.
Do you think he should come forward and let the jury know that you had nothing to do with this?
Yes, ma'am.
It was Magbanawa's second trial for Markel's death after a jury deadlocked in her first trial in 2019. The second time around, a jury rejected her claims of innocence.
The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Now, Florida prosecutors are setting their sights on Charlie Adelson, Markel's former brother-in-law.
What enemy or enemies had Mr. Markel made that set into motion such a brutal act? The answer is own family.
It would take 8 years for prosecutors to bring a case against Adelson to a grand jury, despite early suspicions of his possible involvement. Markel was involved in a bitter child custody dispute with Adelson's sister, Wendy, when he was gunned down in his driveway in 2014. Wendy Adelson testified that there was ill will between her ex-husband and her brother.
He had bought me a TV when I got divorced and said it was a present and made a very bad joke and bad taste that it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
But prosecutors say Adelson did hire hitmen with Magbanawa's help. Sigfredo Garcia, the father of Magbanawa's children, and Luis Rivera, a gang member and friend of Garcia's. Rivera pleaded guilty in exchange for testimony implicating Garcia as the gunman and Magbanawa as the link to the Adelson family.
I gave him the truth, bro. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you, man. I gave him the truth. Like, it was Katie and Garcia. It was all 3 of us was involved.
Investigators used a sprawling web of surveillance video, wiretaps, and cell tower data to connect a vehicle that was leaving the crime scene to Garcia and Rivera. Connecting Magbanawa to the plot would prove more difficult because she wasn't involved, according to Magbanawa's lawyers.
It wasn't through Catherine Magbanawa. This wasn't something that was negotiated through Catherine Magbanawa. It was about her. The communications that we have between Sigfredo Garcia and Charles Adelson in the weeks before the murder, in the days before the murder, are consistent with the fact that there was a deal between the 2 of them, and part of that deal was Charles Adelson breaking up with Catherine so that Sigfredo could get back the woman that he loved so much.
What's different now? Leon County prosecutors say they have a new version of secretly recorded video showing Magbanawa and Adelson in a restaurant in 2016 with enhanced audio.
Listen, if a badge comes up to you, tell them have a nice day, officer. Listen, if they want to charge you with something, charge me. If not, I don't talk to cops.
Prosecutors showed the video to the jury in Magbanawa's retrial and to the grand jury that indicted Charles Adelson.
The piece of evidence was something that I did think was important, and I've always felt like if we could just get that clarified, that would make a big difference potentially in the case, so I was really happy to have that piece of evidence to present to the grand jury.
Charles Adelson now faces the same charges that Magbanawa was convicted of: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation to commit murder. Adelson has pleaded not guilty and maintains his innocence.
That was Julia Janae reporting there, and we're fortunate enough to have her in the studio with us today. She's joining me here live. Julia, always great to see you. You were watching this morning as Charlie Adelson was back in court for that hearing in Florida called the Arthur hearing, but it's all about the bond. At the end of the day, he wanted bond, and the state presented a lot of evidence. I know. I'm curious to get your take on how things are looking in terms of the case against him.
In that hearing today, the state prosecution was so smooth in the way that they delivered the evidence that they have against Charlie Adelson, who was sitting there in the courtroom in his jail garb with his attorneys. You saw some smiles, some shaking of the head from this defendant. His defense attorney says that he's been in protective custody while he's behind bars, that he's been isolated during all of this. But Georgia Kappelman, she presented a case in front of this judge. It didn't take very long, but they spent a lot of time focusing on the words and calls between this defendant and someone who's already been convicted, Catherine McBanawa. And I want to play some of what the prosecution recounted in court, which was this all-important conversation that they say points to him being the mastermind behind this crime.
So Charles Adelson is instructing Catherine McBanawa what to do to resolve this issue of the undercover operation. This is what I want you to do. I want you to call up this person and say that I got a call from some friends of mine who says that you reached out to them and that you mentioned my name. And remember, protect your name, something about protect your name recently. So what you're going to say is, I got a call from some friends of mine who said that you had reached out and that you had mentioned my name. These people want to go to the police because they had nothing to do with what you're talking about, okay? And frankly, I don't know what you're talking about, but the name sounds familiar of who's incarcerated, so I'm going to give you something as charity to help the less fortunate. But do not contact these people again, or they're going to the police. Again, instructing Catherine McBanawa on exactly what to say when she calls the undercover operative / gangster that's approached his mother. That way he gets his money. He also knows that you know everything, that you may have a friend who may not be so cool with what's going on too, who may know people, who knows how to handle people like this, and that this is a one-time thing. This is charity to help somebody out. If it's this guy, maybe in the back of he knows something times a million. And now he's with his wife, and he's with him, and you with something, you with the king himself. You better kill him because he's going to be a big problem, and he knows who you are. If he can't do it, he'll have someone else do it. And so help me God, if they with my family, it's going to be like that Nazi, because this will be done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Katie, I don't care what I spend, okay? I swear to God. Later he says, like, you know it. I don't have to sit here and tell you what I would do. I would show you what I could do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how I am. Like, I look for things to do. You don't ask me for I'm the one that's like, hey, somebody's birthday's coming up. I got you. And I'm the one who's like, hey, I'll sell you a Lexus for a very good price. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to tell you, I show you. There's a difference.
Now, though we have the prosecutor there actually saying these words in court to the judge, these are recorded conversations. Right. So a jury would actually hear those words from Adelson. This was all part of really a sting operation, undercover operation that the authorities had during this time, where they call it a bump. They got in touch with someone who knew Adelson to say, we know what's going on, and see what he was going to do, how he was going to react, and that conversation is the reaction.
Right. Ooh, this is not good. Not good for him, that piece of evidence, Julia. Tell me, at the end of the day, we know, even though we're focused on the bond here with Charlie Adelson, the dentist, who's, locked up facing these charges right now as he awaits his trial date, Dan Markel was the man who was killed here. He's the life that was lost, the beloved Florida State University law professor. Curious, anything from his family today? Have they said anything that you're aware of?
You know, they didn't say anything publicly in terms of being there, having a press conference or anything like that, but it was important for this prosecution to share part of how they feel about all of this. This has been 8 years plus in the making in terms of getting people behind bars for his death. This is the 4th person now who is facing these criminal charges. But take a listen to that statement that was read aloud in court to the judge.
And State's Exhibit E is a statement prepared on behalf of the Markel family by their attorneys in conjunction with them. And it reads, Dear Judge Wheeler, we represent the family of Dan Markel, his mother Ruth, his father Phil, and his sister Shelley. On behalf of the Markel family and pursuant to their legal rights as crime victims under Florida law, we respectfully submit this letter to oppose defendant Charles Adelson's motion for pretrial release. And there's some law cited there. More than 8 years since Dan Markel was brutally murdered outside his home, justice has only been partially served. His boys are growing up without their father, and his parents are spending their elder years in searing pain, mourning the death of their son and the loss of their beloved grandchildren. The upcoming trial of Charlie Adelson is an important step on the path to justice for Dan, his family, and the countless friends, colleagues, and loved ones who continue to mourn him around the world. And there is still far more work to be done to ensure that every person responsible for Dan's brutal murder is held accountable. In our view, if Mr. Adelson is released pending trial, there is significant risk that he would flee, attempt to corruptly influence witness testimony, otherwise tamper with trial evidence, and or conspire with or be influenced by other co-conspirators.
You hear there at the end of that family statement, Julie, the family of Dan Markel was concerned that he might be able to tamper with witnesses because of the other people that he could influence if he's out, but bringing attention to the most sensitive victims in this, those 2 boys who are growing up without a father.
So sad, just awful, Julia, as you know. Have a really important question. I'm sure this has been on the top of your mind. With the Adelson family name being, brought up throughout, I remember watching these trials on Court TV, you'd hear the name. We know Charlie Adelson is the only Adelson who's been charged to date. I know you've been digging in heavily. Are you hearing anything else? Is there a possibility anybody else that you know of in that Adelson family could be brought into court too?
We got some pretty strong indications today.
Really?
Before that, we've been curious and we felt that that may be a possibility, but today it seemed the strongest that I've heard before from the prosecution that might happen. I mean, Wendy Adelson, the ex-wife,
yes,
she testified she got immunity, but it seemed that was just for that testimony not being able to be used against her. Today, the prosecution not only played some sound, some recordings of this defendant talking to his father, Harvey Adelson, but also they mentioned directly what could happen in the future. Take a listen.
Flight risk. Charlie Adelson is a classic flight risk. He faces charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation to murder, and the very real prospect of spending the rest of his life in prison. Mr. Adelson and his family have substantial wealth and the financial means to flee. Recorded telephone calls capture Charlie Adelson boasting about his expensive luxury cars, boat, and international travel. Mr. Adelson even discussed with Ms. Magbanua his intention to flee in the event he was prosecuted, evidence of both consciousness of guilt and of flight risk. On the enhanced Dolce Vita recording, Mr. Adelson told Ms. Magbanua, quote, if they had any evidence, they would have already gone to the airport.
All right, I'm going to read a portion of that sound that I don't think was included there, but essentially the prosecution said that he's a substantial risk of witness tampering, and he has every reason to influence his mother, Donna, his sister, Wendy, and others who could be the subject of future prosecution.
Wow.
So this is from the state attorney's office saying that they could be the subject, so not in the clear.
Right, Julia, their words. You're reading directly here. Oh boy. I know you're watching those dockets very closely there where this one's happening in Florida. You'll let us know if anybody else is charged. And Charlie's gonna stay in jail, no bond for him, bond denied. I guess we'll see when the next court date is that he's going to be back. Did they happen to mention when he's going to be brought back in today?
Not exactly when,
Right.
but we know that the trial is scheduled for early next year. So
Good to
definitely
know.
some months
Okay,
before we see jury selection in this case.
Awesome. Julia, thank you so much for all of that. Great to have you in here.